Hi, Gateway Life Groups. I hope that you're doing well and hope that you're going to have a really good evening together. Well, let me begin by just summarising some of what I said on Sunday about lament. You'll know that we've been doing this whole series in this area, and Pippa spoke several weeks ago, and hopefully you got to speak about lament, share together last week as well. But we're going to do a little bit more. So this are the sort of things that I shared on Sunday. I shared about how our relationship with God, like any relationship, is a relationship that where there should be trust and where God wants us to be honest with him, and how the Bible encourages us to be honest in our relationship with God, to be honest in our prayer and our praise. But how we have a culture that likes to hide pain and suffering in many ways. And for many of us who may have grown up in a church culture or be in a church culture where we're not happy to be that honest with God. It's taught us maybe not to be too honest with God. And so I think this is something that most of us need to learn to do. It's not the only way to respond in difficult situations, but it's one really important, powerful biblical way, is to lament. And I just encouraged us really that giving ourselves and others space to grieve, to express frustration and pain, and to come honestly to God is important, and it can lead into a place of trust. We don't have to fall into either the pit of I'm going to get through it in my own strength and be really positive all the time, and kind of self-help. We don't have to fall into the pit of despair and walking away from God. We can walk through lament, coming to God in the midst of what's going on in our lives. So that's really the essence of what I shared. And there's two things that I'd like to encourage you to do this evening. The first question is really to go into smaller groups. 2s or 3s probably work better if possible. Guys together, girls together. But groups of 2 or 3. And just to be honest, okay, well, is there something in you that resists this? Do you think this is a good idea? Can you see the biblical encouragement to pray sometimes in this way? Or do you think, I don't like this, or I don't feel comfortable with it? Talk about it honestly, and then come back together. Have some time as a group to share how you're feeling about it. Now, whatever you come up with that for that first question, I still would love you to participate in the second activity, which is to really have a time to go through each of these stages as a group. You could do that in all sorts of ways. You could use paper and pens and music and all sorts of things, but it doesn't have to be. You could just very simply go through each of these stages. Perhaps your group leader will remind you, okay, let's turn to God. And you spend some time praying and turning to God. Let's bring our complaint, stage 2. And you spend some time talking to God about the things. Now, you may not have anything in your life right now that you think is worth telling God about in terms of complaint, but there are many things in our world, in our communities, in our culture, in our church community, wars going on throughout the world. There are so many things that we can say, God, that's not right. And then to go to the third stage, to ask God to intervene, and the fourth stage to reach that place of trust, of choosing to say, okay, God, I don't feel this right now, I'm frustrated right now, but you have always been faithful in the past. You are over all things, you're sovereign, and to pray in that way. So the stages are: turn to God, bring your complaint, ask, and trust. So you may do that as a group. If you don't feel confident to do that, you could, of course, break down into smaller groups. If you have a different way that you want to work this out, do, but I would really encourage you so let's practice what we're talking about. Let's not just keep it as theory. Hope that you have an important, powerful, encouraging evening together. God bless you, and see you soon. Bye.